All right, boys and girls, it's confession time. I have to come out. I've been holding something in for a long time that I need to share with the world. It's been a long time coming. Okay. All right, here I go. I am a massive Taylor Swift fan. Whoa! T-Swift for life! Queen! If you ain't for the queen, get the fuck out of here, dog! Get the fuck out of here! You belong with me! Just maybe! You belong with me! Now that I've gotten it off my chest, that is a huge relief. The reason I've called you all here today is because I have listened to every single Taylor Swift album in a row. All of them, start to finish, from Tim McGraw all the way to the end of Lover. All of it. It is all under my belt. I am a master of Taylor Swift. Me, her obvious target demographic. Oh, this is already dated as shit, dog. Yeah. Let me cover the basics first. I'm going to be reviewing every single Taylor Swift album, going through my thoughts, seeing which ones I like, which ones I don't. I'm going to try and keep it brief, but this is probably going to be like 15 minutes. I am not covering her singles, even though one of her singles is her most popular song. I have very little to say on any of her singles. The Zayn one is fine. The only exception to this rule is Safe and Sound by the Civil Wars and Taylor Swift. That song slaps. Beautiful song, harmonies that could kill. Fucking fantastic. But first, let's cover some basics about her discography. One, this is an overall note. In terms of musical continuity and contiguousness within each album, it's much more like a playlist than an album in the context of each song has a pretty solid stop, and then you play the next track. It's not like, say, the White Album where songs will transition into each other. The way that the song keeps unified is typically through themes, motifs, and lyrical lines that will actually tie different songs together. An easy example would be the entirety of Reputation, which, are you fucking, stop it. Stop! But that would be too easy to just be like, motifs, the whole album's about a reputation. Let's go into a specific example. In the song So It Goes, no. Yes? Checking. I was right. Ha-ha! My knowledge is profound! In the song So It Goes, there are several lines in which she describes her jealousy towards a man for how he makes her feel in terms of his aesthetic. Then the next song, the lines tie into each other regarding the whole song Gorgeous being about this man who she is attracted to and jealous of for his aesthetic. Lines like this permeate everything, especially Rain. I can name 5 examples off the top of my head where she brings up crying in the rain, singing in the rain, playing music in the rain, or kissing in the rain. She is definitely a fan of Rain. Those are the overalls. That's basically it. Let's hit these albums one by one. Okay, so confession time. I would never recommend this album as the first Taylor Swift album to anyone. Not because it's bad, but because, man, the first 2 songs are a struggle. Tim McGraw is not bad, but it's not good. It's like one of her weaker country songs ever. This is slow and kind of monotonous, and I get that it's personal to her, and that's valid. That's important. Write what you want to write. However, this is not what I would want people to think of at first when they're thinking of Taylor Swift country music. Oh, but then we have to do Picture to Burn. This is the most stereotypical country song that Taylor Swift has ever written, and it's also super problematic because depending on which version you're listening to, she straight up is just like, lol, you're gay, in the, like, condescending, bad connotation kind of way. And it was 2006. Homophobia was just kind of the norm. I'm not gonna hold it against her. I mean, look at You Need to Calm Down, which is more or less a song about bigots and people who don't respect other people. She's obviously evolved and changed her style and her political beliefs as of that point. More on that when we get to Lover. But I still wouldn't recommend this album just for those first 2 opening tracks to a new T-Swift fan. That being said, picks right the hell up with one of her best country tracks ever with Teardrops on her guitar. Love that song. Love everything about that song. I cry regularly to this song. The rest of the album after Teardrops on her guitar is either fairly solid country track or really solid country track with Oh Mary, that song is just heartwarming to the T. I love when Taylor Swift writes heartwarming country tracks. That's her at her best, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, just choice content. This album's actually a lot sadder than most people give it remembrance for. Like, most people, when they think of this album, they're like, oh yeah, it's Taylor Swift's basic country album. Yeah, but like half of it is depressed women trying to figure out their way in the world or getting heartbroken, which becomes, her entire motif moving forward. It's not like Red or Fearless where it's a healthier balance. It's like 6-4 on happier tracks to sadder tracks, ranging anywhere from between. So overall, I give this album a 7 out of 10 Taylor Swifts. I have to insist, skip the first 2 tracks if you're going to listen to this album. They're kind of rough. Huh? 6? Yeah, I have 6 more albums to go. I told you this was going to be a long nightmare to edit. Fuck! Oh boy, we get to my favorite song and one of my favorite albums of hers, Fearless. Fearless slaps. Most of the country tracks on this album are fantastic. It comes with the beginning of her country pop evolution with her first major country pop track, and also probably her most iconic country pop track, You Belong With Me, which has a personal special place in my heart, which is going to bias me the hell towards this album. When I was younger, in middle school growing up, I had to deal with a lot of bullying and harassment in my school because I was the first openly bi kid in the building. It was a really rough time for me. Did you just say gay? You're not helping. I was the first openly gay kid in this building, and it was really hard for me. Whenever I'm driving on the bus rides home, legitimately the best parts of my day would be when You Belong With Me would come on the bus radio, and it would be like every 4 songs it would be You Belong With Me. And while all these other hetero boys were just going, ugh, Taylor Swift, grody, I would be jamming the fuck out. I love this song. This song brings me right back to my childhood. It probably started my romantic phase as a child. So with that in mind, Fearless by principle gets a 10 out of 10 Taylor Swift. That being said, Coming With the Rain, more rain motif. Just thought I'd bring it up. 15 is a super heartwarming track about trying to figure out who you are as a 15-year-old. It's depressing, but it's heartwarming. It's uplifting when you think about it in hindsight, but it's kind of hard to deal with in the moment. It's really good. It's well written. White Horse is fantastic. I love this track. I have nothing else to add on the matter. The Other Side of the Door is probably the best track on the album from a more objective perspective because it has a lot of her best lyrics on the album. It ties into her kind of storytelling song style, which, most musicians have A, B, A, B, C, A, or A, B, A, B, C, B as their typical motif layout. Taylor leans into this idea by having every verse be Act 1, Act 2, the bridge will be Act 3. This isn't new, this isn't innovative, but it's really solid, and she does it really freaking well. Fearless gets 9 out of 10 Taylor Swifts if I take away my blinding nostalgia. Speak Now! Yes! I love Speak Now. Speak Now is so good. It has some of her better country tracks. It has arguably her saddest and one of the ones that affects me the most, Back to December All the Time. That song is so good. It's so good. I cannot stress how good it is. The music video was one of my top 10 viewed videos of all time on my YouTube playlist. Mine, which is probably the easiest example of her storytelling structure. First verse, they meet. They fall in love. Second verse, they're on the couch starting to deal with financial struggles. Third verse, aka bridge, she thinks that he's about to leave just like her dad, but he doesn't. He chooses to stay, and that's why they have this deep romantic connection, and the song slaps for it, and you feel so good when that last verse comes on. Hell yeah. With a lot of tracks on this album, it starts to be like, this is one of the few albums where I kind of can't agree with some people where it's like she starts to sound very similar. The album's a little overlong. There are a few tracks you could probably get away with cutting, as they have very similar musical motifs even to songs of previous and songs moving forward. But that being said, there are so many iconic tracks on this album. If it's your favorite, no judgment whatsoever. 8 out of 10 Taylor Swifts. Ooh boy, it's hot take time. Hot take. Taylor Swift's most consistent, effective album is Red. By far. Reputation does slap. I will get to that. It's like 9.5. It's like 9.5 to a 10. But Red as an album flows the best of these albums. It also has the most consistent thematic motifs. It also has the most of these lyrical tie-ins that I was describing from earlier. It's the apex of her country music and her pop music as like the transformation was happening. The album after this, 1989, is when she has fully transitioned into pop. And then Reputation and Lover are transformations of that pop style. First few albums of Taylor Swift weren't really transformations, but elevations of that country style. You look at Red. Red is the best of both worlds, where you're getting pop bangers, and country pop bangers. You've got some of that Reputation edge with I Should Have Known You Were Trouble When You Walked In. Great song. You've got country depression and sadness with songs like You Should Have Been Here, a.k.a. The Moment I Knew. And it's got basically everything you could want in a T-Swift album. If I were to ask someone to try Taylor Swift out and give her a proper try, I probably would start with this album, even though her new style has definitely evolved away from this. This is what I would say gives you the best blend of her styles and gives her the most overarching analysis of her work. It's also, in terms of quality, all of the songs are 7s and ups. There's not a bad track on here. Even State of Grace, which is probably my least favorite opener of T-Swift's other than Tim McGraw, but that doesn't mean it's a bad song. That's just me being an anti-theistic asshole. The whole album is great. My one caveat being, aside from The Moment I Knew, it's probably, like, there are better versions of all of her styles on different albums. Back to December is a better track from a country perspective than anything on Red. Reputation has several pop songs that are vastly superior to anything on Red. Red is the most consistent album, but it does not have the most iconic songs on it, if that makes sense. It gets a solid 9 out of 10 Taylor Swifts. Let's get into 1989. 1989 is, that's what iTunes defines as her definitive track. It's her definitive album. It is her hard-cut transformation into pop, where Red was the apex of both. This is where she has more or less cut her country roots completely out of her sound, or at least mostly out of her sound. Banger quality only elevates from here. Almost every song on 1989 slaps. Bap, 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 bap. I mean, banger after banger after banger. We're looking at probably her sexiest song, except for my favorite one, Style. Ooh! Ooh! That song is sexy. Blank Space, iconic, billions of views on YouTube. You know it, you've heard it, you've gotten sick of it because it got overplayed as hell. But it's so good. I don't really have much to add on 1989. It's not a consistent album because the last 5 or so songs, if you're looking at the list, you know, basically everything after Wildest Dreams is hit or miss for me. It's like the first half is so good, and then the latter half is like good for some of the song, or I'm not a huge fan of the song. Clean is not great. I don't love Clean as an example. But like, you could put 1989 and listen to the whole thing and you wouldn't even notice. It's really freaking good. 1989 gets 8 out of 10 Taylor Swifts. I look like an angry skinhead biker. Bars! Taylor Swift's dropping bars! This is completely tangential and stupid. However, Endgame is Taylor Swift's rap debut. Why, producers? Why won't you let her rap more? Look, I know you're all going to think I sound crazy here, but Taylor Swift can drop bars better than Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. Fuck both of them. I don't know why they have careers in rap, and Taylor Swift doesn't. In Endgame, she is dropping bars just as fast as Ed Sheeran, and just as fast as her other cohorts on said track. It is so good. It is ridiculously good. Anyway, the rest of the album also slaps, but that was my major tangent. Ah! You turned off the mic. You turned off the mic as you interrupt my shoot. I'm not trying to silence you. You turned it off. Taylor Swift's rap debut. Please, please, let her do a rap album. I'm begging you. It is obviously very personal, obviously very focused on certain individuals she will not name, but basically name in the tracks. Almost every track has a very personal, pointed attack at someone else, or is about, like, very sexual themes. 89 was a light sexual awakening, but Reputation was like yeah, fuck y'all, I'm no longer Disney Channel. I'm about to get some mad dick. Mama Taylor is in the building. Don't fuck with me. Dancing with Our Hands Tied is so good. I love Dancing with Our Hands Tied because I love dancing with my hands untied because I'm single and lonely. All of Reputation is worth a listen. Except there's one track on this album that feels drastically out of place. King of Hearts, I don't understand why it's here. It feels like it should have been on 89 or Red, or maybe even Fearless. It just kind of feels dated, and like musically it's right in tone with everything else, but lyrically it's high school beer drinking, and thematically it's just, juvenile romanticism of parties, and it just doesn't feel in line with the rest of the album. I feel like you could have cut it and the album would have been stronger for it. So, with that minor caveat, 9.5 Taylor Swifts out of 10.
All right, here we go on Lover. Oh, boy.
All right, look. I will admit my part in this problem. When Lover first dropped, it got torn apart by a lot of her fans who loved the Reputation style change, and a lot of people who were just like, it's a transition back to her older styles, and it doesn't feel new or fresh, and it doesn't feel... it feels studio poppy. When you have the first 5 tracks of your album being really hard to sit through, either being basic and slow, aka Archer, or kinda cringe, like The Man. Look, I'm not saying she shouldn't talk about feminist issues, and I'm not saying that's not a personal story of hers. I am saying the delivery wasn't great. It kind of rubs off like bad Rihanna or bad Beyonce from 10 years ago. I'm just saying, like, if she's going to do political stuff, she should work on her delivery. Other songs on the track, Lover was super anticlimactic and kind of boring as a title track. I Forgot You Existed. I actually kind of forgot the song existed when I was writing the review. The first, 5, 6, almost 7 tracks of this album are pretty rough to get through in terms of being boring, kind of generic-y pop. But once you get past that, there are some bangers on this album. I Think He Knows slaps. Great sex anthem. I'm here for it. Paper Rings is a super, super sweet love song. I love this coming back from her because Reputation wasn't missing romance. It was just a lot of like tainted, intense romance, very emotionally distraught romance. This is kind of more back to her like romantic side. And I really did miss that coming out of Reputation. Cornelia Street, really intense, distressing, heartbreaking song. Really here for it. Soon You'll Get Better is one of the saddest tracks that dropped that year. I was crying upon the second listening of that track. That is really good songwriting. Death by a Thousand Cuts is one of the most unique pop tracks ever, just with that piano riff in the background, creating this weird dissonance. It creates this like layer within the lyrics because you can feel the piano being offbeat half the time, and because the piano's offbeat, it stings into the track, and so you kind of feel those 1,000 cuts that she's talking about. It's thematic, it's potent, it's really good. Okay, but then there's London Boy, which is kind of backtracking a little bit. London Boy is the weird exotification of British people, which I've noticed is kind of a theme in modern American pop. I get it. I get that it's okay to exotify British people because they exotified everybody else. But is it? I don't think it should be. I think in 30 years we're going to be cringing. Maybe 50, maybe 100, however long it's going to take for us to look and be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't exotify anybody because it's kind of cringe. Like, imagine if the song was Jamaican Girl and the theming was Jamaican women are exotic and beautiful and stuff. Would we be okay with it? Probably not. But then it's followed up with my favorite Taylor Swift track to ever come out. False God is a minimalist, sexy track that heavily relies on Taylor Swift's ability to carry it. It is 2 drum beats, like 2 drum kit beats, a bass line, and like all of that is sub-level. That is all subdued, and then it relies on Taylor and her harmonies to bring this song to life with this just vibrant, sexual, vague, religious theming. And oh man, does it work. It is so good. It is so good. I am 100% here for it. I don't know why, but Christian women singing vaguely anti-religious stuff gets me there so fast. That's very creepy. My point is the song slaps. It's so good. The last 4 tracks are kind of terrible. I won't lie. Me is super cringy because it's obviously studio pop. Brendan Urie nor Taylor Swift have ever written anything even half as bad as that track is. And you know both of them are more talented than the track. You know both of them are more gifted from a singing perspective than the track allows them to really express. The lyricism is missing. I mean, they rhyme me with me several times. Yikes. Overall, the last 4 tracks and the first 5 tracks are terrible on Lover. I won't deny that. But if you give the middle tracks a try, I promise there is stuff worthy in Lover. I give it 7 out of 10 Taylor Swifts overall. That's probably being generous, but I was generous to the first T Swift album, so I'm going to be generous to this one too. With all of this being said, I am obviously not her target demographic. I am obviously not a music expert. I am obviously not an expert on her personal life, so I don't know if any of these track evaluations are valid, but they're just how I feel about them. So, I hope you've enjoyed this analysis. I hope you've enjoyed all this. I'm looking forward to bringing you more crap like this.
That thinks Taylor Swift is good.
Taylor Swift. What?
Car seat headrest. Start with. Fuck, I don't know what to even start with because it's all so good.
3 days later.
She what? Turn off.
Hello and welcome to obviously the same location because I obviously knew she was going to drop a surprise album. Okay, let's get the obvious out of the way. The album slaps. Of course it does. It's Taylor Swift. But really? I just finished editing. I finished everything. It was so... Okay, it's fine. Let's just focus on the album and where it ranks and everything. If you had told me Taylor Swift was going to drop a lo-fi country pop album in 2020, I would have said, hey, maybe 2020 does have an upside. Colorado's COVID-19 cases are rising again. Wear your fucking masks, America! Come on! The entire first half of this album breaks my heart repeatedly. The obvious highlight that I'm not the first person to say so, and I'm not going to be the last person to say so, it might be her best song. It's knocked False God off for me. Exile is one of the most heart-wrenching depictions of a relationship ever in song. Bon Iver's deep, gravelly voice comes out of fucking nowhere and is just so right. It is so good. It's pronounced what? Bon Iver? No, I reject you. His voice just works. I don't know why. Maybe it's because all of her other features have been higher-pitched women or higher-pitched males, i.e. Ed Sheeran. Other highlights include, but are not limited to, 7, which is super sweet and super sad. Mirrorball is a unique take on the concept of reflection. So deep, I know. I've had like 2 days to analyze this album. Give me a break. I also really liked This Is Me Trying. It builds on a lot of Reputation's themes of like, despite her efforts, it's not working. The lyrical motifs throughout this album really work. Okay, on to my one complaint. And I mean one, and it's not a big complaint. Betty is weird. It feels like her take on a classic Take Me Back country song, which she hadn't really done before, with the exception of Back to December, which is not classic in terms of its country stylings. The big caveat with Betty is it sounds stereotypically country. And Betty's a good song. It just doesn't fit at all where it is or anywhere. Taylor Swift's Folklore is a unique push of her style. It is a unique direction for her country music elements to be taken. I really like that some of that has come back after more or less missing it for 2 albums. I just really like Folklore. I think Folklore is one of her best. Now on to the arbitrary top 10 list. Those are my rankings. Fight me. Thank you for watching my video. I didn't do a great outro when we first shot it, and I'm not going to do a great outro now. What?
So we're going to talk about the Pennsylvania band, The Districts,
Like and
who
subscribe.
just put out their 4th album, their 4th
Like and
studio
subscribe.
album.
We're just cutting it here.
And would you see their new
Like
album?
and subscribe. No one
You
cares.
know I won't.
Like
I
and
would be.
subscribe.
You know I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you. Like and subscribe.